We are at Mishnah 19 in my edition, Mishnah 19 in chapter 2. This is Rabbi Elazar. We were looking at this already in our last conversation. And I just wanted to wrap up things a little bit. We started with the idea of being devoted, assiduous, eager to study Torah. And then we had the second phrase was, and know what you should, answer, what you should be able to answer, the apikoros, the heretic. By the way, there's an a cappella group, comes out of the Reconstructionist Rabbinical School, and it's called the Epi Chorus.
Wait, are they the ones we need to refute?
Well, you have to know how to respond to them, which means like when they sing really well, you clap and you like that. You have to know how to respond. So, yeah. So that's one point that I wanted to make about responding. To the challenges of the apikoros. So, well, before I make my point, does anybody else want to talk about that a little bit? Going once, twice, 3 times. Okay.
I'm just eager to hear because we talked about it a lot last time. So now I'm eager to hear how can we pull this together and make something that we can live with, since I don't want to go around refuting the atheists in my life or, anyone else. So
I think that refute is a strong word, and that's one way to think about it. What I said before was respond.
Respond. Okay.
And what I wanted to sort of bring up is that even though the word apikoros is a totally negative word, it's a judgment that this voice that you're responding to, this position that you're responding to, is really wrong and unacceptable and dangerous. Nevertheless, I think that what the Mishnah does tell us is recognize that there's stuff out there, and that you yourself are responsible. It's not just when you possibly, it doesn't say avoid the apikoros, right? It doesn't say steer clear of reading any dangerous material that could influence you to, shake your faith or something like that. That's not what it says. And I'm sure, and there are other places that give us that kind of recommendation. You don't go, you don't walk in front of a speeding car, and you don't walk in front of a speeding heretical thought. But the idea of recognizing that it's out there and recognizing that it requires a response means that you yourself have to do some work in a very much more positive way, but nevertheless, I think a relevant way. We have as a great model in our tradition the way that Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai, the school of Hillel and the school of Shammai, would react to each other and would respond to each other. That the whole point was that they engaged in debate, they engaged in talking to each other in regard to things that they deeply disagreed with. And one of the statements in the Talmud is in the end, how come Beit Hillel, the school of Hillel, overwhelmingly is the one that we accept? Why is it that their position 99 times out of 100 is the position that we have as a consensus community accepted? Beit Shammai had many, many sharp and devoted scholars. Shammai himself, of course, as the beginning of the school. And the Talmud answers because Beit Hillel made it a point of reviewing what Beit Shammai said first, and then coming to their conclusion. That Beit Shammai was very staunchly devoted to their own point of view and stuck to it, sometimes in very extreme ways. But Beit Hillel, the reason that they are given the final authoritative stamp of approval is because they had the quality of going over, reviewing explicitly. What was that? Going over the teachings of Beit Shammai first, and then refuting them or responding to them or showing the alternative, showing that there was a different way to look at things. So the consciousness that there is some other way to look at it, that there is some other way to think about things, is essential in the end to, when you disagree with it, feeling more secure that your disagreement is well-founded. So I would say that that's also part of what's here. To be absolutely oblivious to the challenges that one could be presented with is not necessarily, for some people, maybe that's great, but it's not necessarily a very strong and productive way to go forward. Because what we see is, what happens is when somebody then is surprised by that kind of contrary view, if they're not prepared, then they're not they really fall apart, and they get into a lot of trouble, and they don't serve their own cause well. So all of these things are important, and on a personal level, it means developing yourself personally to see other things that you may not agree with or adopt for yourself, but nevertheless see, well, what is that all about? Where is that coming from? Jen, what do you want to say?
Just a question. Okay, so that sounds like a very good, awesome thing for me to remember when I'm fighting politically with people. But I'm just curious.
It's easier said than done.
I know, but I feel like I need to keep that front and center. I am curious, so in context, Shammai was never called a heretic, I'm assuming.
That's
right?
What I said at the beginning.
That's okay. So that was the disclosure.
Is not an apples to complete apples thing.
Got it.
Like I said, Shammai was totally within the community, but nevertheless, the idea of recognizing some difference that's possible doesn't mean accepting that difference. It means recognizing that difference and coping with it. And we have it in contemporary situations within the Jewish community, and it's a very sad situation. For instance, young people who are sheltered in their education before they get to college, and that basically includes everybody, and Jewish students who then come to a college campus and have never never really actually thought much about Israel or been educated much about Israel. And that's the bulk of the non-Orthodox world, including our own students at Shomrei, unfortunately, despite my own efforts to try to change that. So they're completely ignorant about what's going on, what the history is, what the issues are. And then they come to campus and backwards. And in the Orthodox community, that there's obviously the ultra-Orthodox anti-Zionist community, they're not going to college. But the modern Orthodox community, somebody that goes to Kushner, somebody that goes to Frisch and Elizabeth, or somebody that goes to Golda Ach, gets a very pro-Zionist education. And I consider myself a Zionist, and I love the state of Israel, and I feel the state of Israel itself as an entity that houses the possibilities for a just society. Like I say, one day may it be the dawn of our redemption. Nevertheless, the education that they get is so one-dimensional and so much excludes any of the challenges that are thrown at the Zionist enterprise, at the Jewish people themselves, at what's going on in Israel to this very day. And of course, what's going on in Israel is not the same thing as the state of Israel as a positive entity. I can't stand what's going on in Israel today, just like I couldn't stand what was going on in the United States when our president was somebody else. So the fact that they're not educated to know how to respond to these kinds of questions produces a real crisis once they get to college. Because once they get to college, they find that there's a tremendous amount of activism in some places. In most places it's not so, and it's overblown, and people that are trying to manipulate us, by weaponizing BDS and other stuff in order to get us to not actually think about problems in Israel are doing everybody a disservice. They don't know how to respond. They think they're responding they are responding a certain way, and I think it's a bad response. So knowing how to respond is really, really crucial. And a lot of the students, once they get to the campus, all of their unsophisticated ideas are blown to pieces. And sometimes to a degree that they end up going the other way. And they go, oh, look at how much they lied to me. Look at how much they covered up, the real facts. And they become staunchly, angry anti-Israel people. So it's a terrible, terrible result of neglecting this idea. That part of growing up and part of maturing, and maturing is something that we're supposed to be doing to the day of our death. Part of trying to be a full human being and devoted to what we love is to understand the questions, to understand the challenges. So I wanted to put that out. Yeah, Josie. Yeah, you got to unmute. Otherwise, I wonder how to respond to you.
Going along with what you said about if you don't ever encounter the other point of view, how will you formulate your own attitude, much less defend it around others? I found this right-wing crazy rabbi in Israel who has a podcast every Thursday morning. He's the complete opposite of everything I've been brought up to believe in, but I listen because I want to understand why he's popular, and he's very engaging. He's got a good public speaking style, and I think, okay, so I'll hear another point of view. That's all right.
Right. So I want to just respond by saying responding, though, is very important. Whoever it was, Goebbels or whoever, said if you repeat a lie 100 times, it becomes a truth. People will believe it because it's not countered. It's not responded to. So if it's a passive, just listening to the same stuff over and over and over again, we see it again and again and again. People get influenced by it, and it becomes to sound. It begins to sound reasonable. So response, and I don't mean call the guy up and yell back at them or something like that, but to process it and to say, well, what exactly is there? Why do I agree or why do I disagree? What's the point of truth that this person is saying? How do I see that point of truth from my perspective? Or what's really dangerous about what this person is saying? What's wrong with what they're saying? Yes, Sarita.
No, I just wanted to comment a couple of things. When we used to go visit my father, we would comment, he would have the news on, Fox News, and he would just be so angry, and we would say to him, Dad, why don't you just watch a different news program? And his comment was, you have to know, you have to listen and really listen well and know what the other person is thinking. And then he lived in Lakewood, which is a really strange town, and he studied with a rabbi who he disagreed with vehemently about a lot of things. And the same thing, he just, they had a great relationship and they argued all the time. And he just thought that was very important to have that kind of relationship and be able to discuss all kinds of stuff. Yeah, and be open-minded.
So well. I want to, so again, I think that everything has to be considered. Look at that. Look at what Meryl's got. Look at that beautiful decoration. So everything has to be thought about in context and within perspective and proportions. I don't watch Fox News. I wouldn't be caught dead for watching. I have a tough enough time reading the New York Times sometimes because it's just too depressing. And I don't think you should beat yourself up. I don't think this should be a masochistic exercise. Last week when Zelda was sitting Shiva, she had an opportunity to speak about her sister and her relationship with her sister. And they tried to remain close, but they avoided the unbridgeable differences that they had. And part of that is because Zelda figured out how to respond to that stuff a long time ago. You don't have to like constantly, be a broken record about things. Once certain things are clear, if white supremacism, if you figured out where that's wrong, you don't have to keep on going over and over again making believe that it's a new idea every time. There's some stuff that you can just work it out. So you don't have to expose yourself all the time. It doesn't say here, always go and debate apikorsim. That's again, it doesn't say ignore them, and it doesn't say go and run after them. It says know what it is that your response is to that kind of stuff. So again, in each case, it could be different, and certain relationships, you're gonna have to do that. I have a dear, 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 dear friend who's crazy. He would, for a couple of years, he would yell at, and this was even pre-Trump. He got very right-wing. He started out not, and he got very right-wing. And he would like yell at me on the phone until finally I said, I can't hear you anymore. I'm sorry, this is not going to work. And we still, stay close and we love each other. And we're there for each other, but we no longer go there. We just can't go there. I mean, I know what my response is, and that's it. I don't have to try to convince him to see something because I see that he's not going to do it. And he now backs off, with me because he knows that it makes me very, very sad. So that's a response too, to respond by saying, okay, this is now going to be something that we're just going to not have to thrash out each time. Okay, Jen wanted to say, I see, did anybody else, somebody wanted to say something?
And Meryl, I think.
Meryl, what do you want to say? So I'm going to go over.
Okay, so when I first read this last week and we started talking about it, on the surface, I mean, this is what you've been discussing. On the surface, it seems like know how to answer a heretic. I thought that simple reading is you want to be able to like try to convince them that you're right and they should adopt your ways. But really, this is about you. So you have to know how to answer so you're not swayed by some of this.
So that's what I'm emphasizing. But historically speaking, all of the things that you said have applied. We have been, unfortunately, put in a position as a people in different places and different times that we were forced to debate religious issues with mostly with the church. There were voluntary places in Islam where people, of all opinions would come together, and there would be like this mass salon, kind of like Cooper Union, open, back in the old days. So, if you're going there, it's still intellectually stimulating, and everybody's on an equal footing, that's great. But unfortunately, the Jewish community has often been put in a position where they have been placed in a challenge. You will have to debate us. It's part of the Inquisition's policies and in a lot of different places. And then we had this very, 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 difficult situation. We knew that as far as they were concerned, we were always wrong and that we were going to lose. But nevertheless, we knew that there was going to be a public impact to how well we argued. If we came out looking like wimps or being unconvincing or not strong enough in our own arguments, we knew that there were going to be Jews that were going to be swayed to go the other way. And it happened all the time. So there is, in history, the call to know how to make the best arguments, know how to put up the best show, know how to present yourself in the best possible light, not because you're going to convince them, but because there's going to be some people that are going to be swayed because it's uncomfortable being an oppressed minority. You know, if you can somehow get out of that, you may want to. And part of it ends up being success is often the best argument that people will listen to. It's not about the merits of the idea, but if an idea succeeds, it must be right. That is a very, very hard challenge to meet. So yes, I'm emphasizing this personal thing because we live in a much more comfortable for Jews, you know, an environment that's much more comfortable for Jews. In other places and in other times, this might ring completely differently to the people that are on the screen here. Jen.
Actually, what I was going to say is very similar to what you just said. I have a very good friend who makes it his business to comment on wildly Trumpist or conservative or, threads in Reddit and Facebook and other places, not because he hopes to change the mind of the person who posted the original thread, but he says always just so there's one liberal/progressive voice on there for some other random person perusing the internet to see like they're not just in a complete vacuum or, that there is these other voices. And I don't have the patience to do that, but I kind of admire that he does. And, you get this one reasonable voice and he doesn't
Right.
ever sound harsh or anything either. So it's, I think it works probably for somebody out there somewhere.
Right. No, I would admire that person also. That doesn't mean that I want to copy that person, right? I'm glad that person's there. Yeah. Adam, you wanted to say something? No. Okay. So I want to, with unless anybody else has something else to put in. Of course, the last phrase we haven't really dealt with in the same to the same extent is know before whom you are working, before whom you're struggling and exerting yourself. A male means hard work, and that the person who is your boss, right? The person for whom you are working is trustworthy to give you recompense or a reward for whatever it is that you're doing, right? Know that what you're doing is not for nothing. Now, this could be related directly, of course, back to this idea of you're the one who's going to constantly have to respond to these idiots or these crazies or these extremists, and you're the one. And we're all very grateful. Thank you, to Jen's friend who's doing this. But it's a thankless task in many ways. It's a grueling, constant, Sisyphusian idea. You roll the rock up the hill, and it goes right back down again each time. So this is this final statement is kind of saying, never think that what you're doing is futile. Never think that what you're doing is of no worth. Somehow or other, God will recognize the worth of what you're doing, and take care of you. That would be one very direct and simple way to read this, right? Because it's all about a lot of work here, right? Be eager, go study with a lot of energy, push yourself, all of these things. And you're going to get tired sometimes, and you're going to maybe lose enthusiasm. Never think that what you're doing is not worth it. It's worth it. You will get rewarded. Any further comments about this last phrase? Okay, I'll let you think about it a little bit. I want to close this Mishnah by reading to you a certain commentary, and it's going to be a little bit, maybe a little exotic. It's by a great Hasidic teacher from the middle of the 1800s, who was he wrote a commentary on Pirkei Avot, as well as many other works. He was a great Kabbalistic Hasidic master. Not all the masters were involved as he was so deeply in these kinds of things. But I wanted to read what he said about this particular Mishnah. I think it has something to contribute. So I'm going to share the screen. I think this is it. Yes. Okay. So, and I'm going to read it because it's a little bit awkward, language. I did my best to translate it in a way that will convey something of what he's saying. So the rabbi is Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Yehuda Yechiel Safran of Kamarna. So the Kamarna Rebbe. And this is from his book Notzer Chesed, which is his commentary on Avot. So here's the Mishnah that we just read. Rabbi Elazar says, "Be diligent, shakud, to learn Torah and know what to answer to the heretic, apikoros, and know before whom you labor, and your employer is trustworthy to pay you the reward of your work." So now here's his commentary. So it says, "Be diligent, be shakud." Shakud, like those almonds, shkedim, right? That's the same word, which are fast to bring forth their fruit and are therefore called shkedim, diligent ones. Okay, so he takes this, commonality of the words. I mentioned to you that it's in our prophets as well. So that's why they're called almonds. They're called shkedim because they are the first fruit to blossom in the spring. So by means of study, you will perfect tashlim, you will complete, you will perfect your soul quickly and with great perfection, shlemut, and with purity of heart. Okay, so this is, you're supposed to be like just really, completely eagerly, diligently, and putting all of your, full speed ahead devotion to study. For the Torah enlightens the eyes and gladdens the heart. And after this extra diligence and alacrity, zrizut, in Torah, you will certainly apprehend many understandings, right? So you'll be able to really get it. And then I, Rabbi Elazar, warn you. So now what we have in the language of the Mishnah is know what to answer to the heretic, right? That's the phrase. But the Kamarna Rebbe breaks this up. And he writes it as follows. He says, I, Rabbi Elazar, warn you, know what? Your knowing and essential apprehension will be what? Right? So stop right there. Know what? What do I know? What have I examined? What have I grasped? What have I investigated? For all is concealed and hidden as from the beginning. The point of knowing is that we not know. So that's his line here, right? Know, you're going to work, you're going to knock yourself out, you're going to spend extra time studying, and then in the end, you have to acknowledge to yourself, what is it? What do I know? I really know what? What? It's rhetorical. And after that, Rabbi Elazar told of the great good that will be yours in apprehending the knowledge of what is hidden. What? What are we? What is our life? And you will have the benefit of being able to answer the heretic. And my brother, you have no greater heretic than the heart's inclination in a person is only evil from his youth. The heretic is you. The heretic is your evil inclination. How do you respond to all the evil impulses that you have within you? You'll know how to do that if you get to this place of understanding, of humility, of saying, you know what? I just know what. That's what I've reached. For so many have been lost by his hand through his questions that he raises in one's mind and heart, through nonsensical things. and they were lost through his temptations from this world and from the coming world. May the merciful one save us. But the most wondrous, exceptional charm, Segula, for rescue from his net is to answer him, what am I? Right? Ma, right? Da, ma, know the what. What am I? I am neither a scholar, nor a mystic, neither a philosopher, nor a sage. Rather, I am but a poor and needy person with hardly any wisdom and with absolutely nothing, no apprehension, ephes. And he should not enter any further into dialogue with him. Right? So here he's going the opposite way, right? Not the kinds of things that we were talking about until now, about be able to see what the arguments are, be able to weigh all of the pros and cons. He says, once you answer the what, once you say, I'm just a simple person, then that's the end. Rather, I am a Jew, poor and needy. I have neither knowledge nor understanding, a plain person like all of the masses of Israel who are holy, innocent, and pure. And each person, by means of his heart, broken like nothingness, ke'ayin, will draw down upon themselves holiness and faith and trust in the Almighty of Israel and God's providence and in God's truth, in God's Torah, the Torah of truth. Then a Holy Spirit will lead him and save him from the net of the heretic, his own evil inclination. Okay? So that kind of reaching a kind of equanimity and a humility of inclusion within the simple, pure identity of just being a Pashat Yid. That's the Yiddish phrase, just a simple Jew. So this is the flow of the statement. Be diligent, shakut, to learn Torah, and know what to answer the apikoros. In other words, know what, so that will answer the apikoros, so that you will have the strength to answer the heretic. What am I? Ma'ani. And the root of his words are meant to warn you, warn that you not say, since the end purpose of knowing is that we should know that we do not know, why should I tire myself to know at all? Whether in the revealed parts of the Torah or especially in the secrets and mysteries of the Torah. For in the secrets of the Torah, I will certainly not apprehend anything at all. So now he says, wait, so now you'll ask me, so then what the heck is the point? If the whole goal of this is to acknowledge that we really don't know anything, so why are we spinning our wheels? Why are we just like working on this and trying to understand just so we should finally say that we don't understand? Let's just give it up. Heaven forbid to say such a thing. Rather, be diligent to study Torah with swiftness and alacrity, day and night with great diligence. And then afterwards, know what? What do I know? The knowledge of the hidden. So then what you do know is that whatness, which is seems like nothing, it's the great nothing with a capital N. That's what you end up knowing. The knowledge of the hidden. And in this, you will have the strength to answer the heretic. What shall I know? And what do I know? But if you will not be diligent in studying the Torah day and night, I'm going too far. It's late. I got carried away.
All
Why
right.
didn't somebody tell me? All right. Well, hopefully we'll continue this next time, I hope, if I remember. Sorry, it's a little late. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, and okay, see you next time, okay?
Shkoach.